This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and TNA will just dump Tyrus and put Dave Mastiff in his spot instead. Well, we're approaching the last show that TNA taped before they decided to wait out the remainder of their time on Spike with best of specials until their new TV deal kicks in, and supposedly they're close to announcing one. I can only hope that if and when they do, they decide to start moving things in one direction or another creatively, because this treading water stuff they've been doing for a while now has really hurt my enjoyment of the product. And Impact lately has not been bad, not really. But as I think back to the last few months of TV, despite some great wrestling, I just feel like not a whole lot has actually happened. Very little of the show has been engaging from a creative standpoint, and I'm sorry to say that even though they were trying a little bit harder than usual in that regard this week, it still didn't feel like they were trying hard enough. The most significant storyline development we got here was with the tag titles. I'm glad the whole tease with Davey Richards was just a fake out. Like I said before, the Wolves are on a career high right now, so Davey considering joining James Storm's Revolution really made no sense. But he didn't have to actually join to make it work. In this case, the tease was all they needed. However, I thought the segment where he turned Storm down wasn't done very well. Davey just throws the offer back in Storm's face and they fight. I thought they could have built that up and milked some more drama out of it. Maybe have Davey look like he's about to accept the offer, have Eddie get in his face, have them argue and nearly come to blows, and then they stop, and then they attack Storm at the same time, showing that they were just pulling one over on him. You know, something like that. You'd still get the same result, but I thought it would have been a little more compelling this way. Then the Abyss thing happened, and I really did not like this. I'd been enjoying the Revolution storyline up until now, but this feels like they're jumping the shark. The Wolves losing the tag team titles is not the problem. They had no really compelling new teams to feud with, so their title run was probably coming to an end anyway. But if the Revolution was going to take the belts, Storm should have given the Feast or Fire title shot to Manik and Sonata and had them do it. That, to me, would have made so much more sense. The whole purpose of this gimmick, I thought, was to use it as a vehicle to reinvent and repackage stale characters to make them new and interesting, and above all else, different. But then you take the guy spearheading the whole thing and you put him back in the tag team division, which is where he's always been stuck. Basically illustrating that James Storm can reinvent other people but not himself, which essentially neuters this whole angle.
You people are fools!
If you wanted to really do this angle justice, then the tag team division is the last place James Storm should be right now. To say nothing of him partnering with Abyss of all people, I think it's a huge mistake to put him in that group. I mean, yeah, Abyss might need to be repackaged, but he's already been repackaged so many times over the years that doing it again just isn't going to mean anything. In my opinion, the Revolution should only be taken on people who can really make an impression by changing something about themselves. With Abyss, you can change anything and everything about him and it won't make a difference. He's been re-gimmicked more times than Kane. I want to be on board with this, I really do, but I can't. It just feels like this decision was a mistake to me. However, there was a silver lining here. Even though I didn't think this was the right way to go, you can't say that it wasn't surprising. You would not have called the swerve with Abyss ahead of time, and this show has really been lacking for surprises lately, so at the very least it had that going for it. It's not much, but it's something. In that same vein, I appreciated the Kenny King promo. I like that they tried to give a little bit more of an explanation about why him and MVP are being dicks to Chris Melendez, because until now there didn't really seem to be one. Kenny resents Melendez for getting the star treatment and thinks he doesn't really belong there. Okay, that makes sense. Here's the problem, though. Kenny isn't exactly wrong. TNA's stance on this seems to be that the fans should support Chris Melendez because he's a war hero, and to not do so is just un-American or whatever. Unfortunately, that all has to do with stuff that he did outside of wrestling. Now that he's in wrestling, he has to rise and fall based on his performance. And in that sense, Kenny King makes a valid point. I look at Melendez and I see a guy who's green in the ring, shaky on the mic, and him being a war hero doesn't change that. So, even though the heel is acting like a jerk, I find myself agreeing with him. I'm sorry, but for all these reasons, I just cannot get into this feud.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Shark Boy said so.
They do an elimination match with the Menagerie versus the Bromance again. Really? This is still going on? Why? No, seriously, why? Why are we still spinning our wheels with this? The only story it ever had was Robbie E being afraid of clowns, and that was months ago. There's nothing happening here. They're not even feuding about anything. They're just having random matches over and over again, and it's all going absolutely fucking nowhere. Jesus Christ, just end this feud already and do something interesting, for crying out loud.
Oh, my brother, testify!
Crazy Steve wins the match for the faces, so the right guy went over at least. I got nothing else to say about this.
He's crazy.
Except that. And that's about all I have to say about the Knockouts match, too. Taryn versus Madison? Wasn't a terrible match, I guess. I just wasn't interested because Madison Rayne was in it, who I couldn't care less about at this point. Frankly, I spent the whole time it was on the screen thinking about how the women's match from the UK finals of British Boot Camp 2 with Kaylee Ray, Nikki Storm, and the Owens twins blew this match out of the freaking water. So, of course, 3 of them get eliminated immediately afterward, and meanwhile here's TNA still trying to make Madison Rayne happen after 5+ years. Yeah, good luck with that one, guys.
This alleged superstar is an unworthy opponent.
More work still needs to be done in the Knockout division. TNA have taken steps to revamp it this year, and that's helped. But as of right now, they're still playing catch-up, because they should have started this process 2 years ago. Taryn wins the match. Good. And if the company wanted to free up some money so they could sign Kaylee Ray, who could be a star in this division in a freaking heartbeat, cutting the cord on Madison Rayne would be a great way to do it. Just saying.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Eric Young beat Tyrus in a match, so Tyrus lost again. I think Tyrus is a waste of money personally, so I'm fine with this, but if TNA have so little faith in the guy, then why'd they even bring him in? So far, the only thing he's accomplished is making wrestling's greatest hero, EC3, less interesting by association. Look at EC3 and Spud, look at EC3 and Tyrus. Which pairing do you think has been more interesting? I mean, compared to Spud, what's Tyrus really bringing to the table here?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
Hell, if we're still looking at the British Boot Camp 2 cast, I say drop Tyrus like a bad habit and put Dave Mastiff in this spot. Then you might have something. That's a talented big man right there. Tyrus? No, not so much.
Your posterior better contact someone at once.
We have another no DQ match, this time with Gunner and Samuel Shaw. It was a good match. There were some impressive bumps here, but in the end, Shaw loses. Again. Lather, rinse, repeat. Why should I care about this feud? The characters should be able to make this interesting, but the writers just absolutely refuse to throw any gas on the fire. They have undermined Shaw and Brittany in every single match. All they do is lose. So why should I take them seriously? I don't view them as a threat to Gunner for 1 second, and I don't see why anyone would. This match was essentially make or break for Shaw if you wanted any chance whatsoever of salvaging this rivalry, and he lost again. He doesn't have a leg to stand on now, so you've pretty much finished this feud off. No reason to continue it anymore, I guess. Maybe move Shaw and Brittany onto something else and try to rebuild them? But that would involve them actually winning matches, so I'm highly skeptical that it's going to happen. Samoa Joe has to vacate the X Division title due to injury. I don't know if that's a work or a shoot. Smells like a work to me, but who knows. If they had to do this, I'm glad they let Joe put over how much the title and the X Division mean to him. They didn't make it an afterthought. It felt like something significant was happening here, and it's good to do that with your secondary division. And Joe should have a ready-made feud with the new champion when he comes back. So, get well soon, Joe. Austin Aries and Lashley was our main event because we needed a main event. Not a lot of story here. Lashley was showing Kurt Angle that he does what he wants. Aries had a problem with it, and that's about it. A fine main event to get Lashley ready for the rematch with Bobby Roode. I just wish we could have had Roode on this show to put that over. Still a great match regardless, but this whole situation is pretty light on the story, which makes it feel not as interesting to me as it really should be. Par for the course with iMPACT this week. Not a bad show, just not a terribly interesting show. And the one big story development was unfortunately one that I was not on board with. They've only got 1 or 2 new episodes left to air on Spike before they'll need a new TV deal to kick in. No time like the present, guys.